You mentioned something earlier about community. I don't
Mhm.
remember exactly what you said, but community to me is like really important. So when I lived in California, although it was beautiful, that was where I felt I hit like rock bottom. That's where I learned all of my shadow self and everything I needed to learn, but it never felt like home. And I
Right.
moved to Vegas and it felt like home. And
Oh.
I moved here and during the quarantine is when I made my wolf packs, and another girl I met who makes crystal jewelry. She started doing like pop-ups in her backyard. And so we started
Mm.
vending there, and that's how I met like all my friends here, and they're all small business owners, and it's just like whether they all work for themselves like 100% or not, it's so motivating to be around people who are number one, understand and talk about and care about spirituality, and number two, are interested in like being better and working for themselves and just like trying new ideas. And I don't know, it just keeps me going too. So,
Ah, yeah, no, I love that. It's interesting to see how you feel embraced in this totally different location, and especially in the middle of the pandemic, because you would think that that would be it would take longer, for some people, but I feel like sometimes those leaps of faith are essential to what you're cultivating right now. And yeah, I feel community can be, your extended chosen families, because in a sense our communities kind of make us. They like the support is very real, and it's kind of going to how you were kind of going back to what you were saying, just like the safe space for people to connect and share. um I've realized how just like a lot of times people will feel unsafe just because of these assumptions that they've been told, that like, their friends don't matter, or like, no one cares. And then we kind of all have in some way, shape, or form moved in that light.
yeah.
But really, we actually do care. And like, the people that kind of have that same empathy, they want to know. And then when we started going into this shift of like, okay, let's give this more attention, let's put more awareness into it, I've seen some beautiful things happen. Like I've seen a lot of people like really find their ways, and in ways that have been so inspirational, because it's like you really don't know someone's journey in light and capabilities until they really, execute them. And so it's kind of like this, like you like a high that you get because just everyone's energy in the community, even if it's not everyone's like at their highest point, but it's like when people are actually putting that effort, like that care, the energy and frequency of love can like go a long way. And when there's those people behind you, whether it's like the entrepreneurs, the artists, both, or even just like the supporters, it can really reverse like a lot of the, just like the traumas and the things that we've gone through. But I've also like kind of grown into like not only speaking about the traumas, but like kind of encouraging us to just be happy again, like,
Yeah.
embracing the happiness, and like celebrating again, because sometimes it's not that serious. Like life is not so serious, and we should be having fun, we should be enjoying our time with our people. So I feel community can really be found anywhere, and it's crazy because I feel like community has like really held me in the Bay Area. So it's like, because I wasn't too far. My family raised me in, Central Valley area, but it's a quiet town. It's a quiet area. It's very like, I feel like their communities like not as tight knit, um not as poppin'. There's not a lot of like cultural uh like celebration. And I feel when I went to the Bay Area, it was like a lot of diversity that I was experiencing. And so I like how like our differences can kind of like shine the different experiences we had, because I've been kind of like in and out of the Bay though, like my whole life. So I feel I've met a lot of like my own Filipino people or like other cultures around here. But how was your experience with like coming to Las Vegas? Was that kind of like more, was everything kind of slow for you, or did it just really like if you just focused, trusted, and everything kind of fell into place?
A little bit of both. Like I
Mm.
knew for a while that I wanted to get to Vegas. So I moved to the Bay in 2015, and
Mm.
maybe like 2017-ish, I kind of was like, I think I want to move to Vegas. Like I visited the year before and I just kind of wanted to get to warmer weather. The cost of living seemed cheaper. And then I have some family that's in Southern California, so it's just easier for me to get there. But that process took a minute. But then once I started like applying for jobs to be like, hey, I want to get to Vegas, I almost thought I wasn't going to move here at first. My job opportunity was at some like naval base and
Oh,
some location in the middle of nowhere in
yeah.
California. I was like, okay, well, this is another stepping stone to get me to Vegas, but I really just wanted to be in Vegas.
Yeah.
And the way it aligns, I actually declined a job opportunity because I thought it was in Martinez. That's what the signature block said from my boss. And then I called him back and he was like, no, the job's in Vegas. Girl, like after I realized that I declined the job, I was really sad. I cried. I was like, I just fucked this up. He called me back as I'm like in the middle of like crying and like, I promise you, I'm trying to get to Vegas. It was 11:11 when he called me.
Oh my goodness. See, yeah.
Yeah. And so like the alignment felt right. I got the job. And then once that happened, like everything happened really fast. And I was in Vegas in like 2 months after that, I think.
So were your ideas kind of already pre-created and then you just kind of took off with it after you settled in Vegas, or was it kind of like you were focusing on one thing at a time
Work,
before?
work, like you mean my work and like how I've been creating things?
Yeah.
That's all really random. It just comes to me as
I
it
love that.
was just the podcast, and then I had no idea I was going to do the sage bundles, and then I had no idea I was going to do the journal. It's just like, well, what can you do next? Because I don't like fitting in a box. I don't like feeling like
Yes.
I care about growing and evolving, and I want to offer people something that is important and useful to them. And the sage bundles are cool, but like, I mean, that's not where I wanted to end it. And so I really would just like to create tools for people to learn to love themselves and to maneuver through the ugly parts of life. And yeah, so not really, but kind of, because you mentioned intentional path. I like to live intentionally. I try to live intentionally. And so, yes, once I have an idea, I try to do what I can to get there.
Oh, yes, much respect for that. Much respect. Yes.
Do you see yourself? I know you said you feel at home in the Bay now, but do you see yourself leaving there? Do you feel like you'll be there for a while?
Oh, this question. I actually feel it's somewhere I would always come back to. I could see myself buying a house here, but I am a traveler. I definitely have that Sagittarius energy where I feel if I am in a box in some sort, and it's funny, it's usually not so an outside force or like even just an assumption is made or brought to my attention where if that box feels like I'm in it, I have to leave or do something different just to get
Yeah.
away from it. But then it's like I always have to come back. So since growing up even in the Central Valley, but being in and out of the Bay my whole life, I feel so rooted here that it's definitely where I will like want to have my roots, want to have my foundation, want to like leave this earth physically.
Yeah.
But I need to be exploring. So I before the pandemic, I used to explore different like countries or what's it called, states, like for myself all the time, just like a little like quick 2 weeks, 1 week, just because I feel with that kind of topic of growing, it's so important for me to like see, because the world is so huge. And I had the graces that, since my parents are immigrants, to go to the Philippines when I was little, like as a baby. So I was very comfortable being in, different settings of cultural norms or just society in general, or even just like the way things look. And so I also had a lot of aunts and uncles that helped me travel to different places because they just kind of, in a way, instead of spoiling me with gifts, like they did that.
That's
And
different.
so so it's interesting because it's like I do see myself living here, but it's like I do see myself living elsewhere in the timeline of my my youth, until I hit that age where I'm like I physically gotta stay put. So you
Yeah.
know
Yes, yes. Do you have Sagittarius in your chart?
yeah, I'm a Sagittarius Venus.
Oh, okay. My moon is Sagittarius, so
What's your sign?
I'm a Libra, right? I'm sorry, a Libra sun, Virgo rising, Sag moon.
Oh, my boyfriend is a Libra. I can taste it. It's like very poised, like so polite. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I overpowering? Like,
Yeah, I'm so like I fight myself all the time because before I started the spiritual journey, I was totally like Libra, like, hi,
Yes.
I just, whatever. And now my moon is like, what? No, you want to travel, you want to be free. Don't try to box me. Like all of these
I'm a
things.
Libra moon, so I can like feel that internally, where despite having kind of like stronger energy, I'll feel that like the whole like, oh, it's okay, like they mean well, like nothing is wrong, and it's like, dang, like that internal battle does not like exist anymore because I'm always like boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Or the Sagittarius like, nope, nope, I'm out,
Exactly. Nope. That
you
little
know.
song they do on Instagram.
Mhm.
Nope. Yeah, I can feel that. I wanted to ask you too about your traditional dance. I really like loved watching your videos and stuff. So can you share that experience? Because you went somewhere for that, right?
Yeah, so I've been dancing my whole life actually. I grew up doing Filipino folk dances, so that's just a range of different things. And that is actually the reason why I was in and out of the Bay my whole life, because we have a facility called Bohol Circle. So the word Bohol is actually a little island in the Philippines. So the Alameda like facility is called Boho Circle to kind of just celebrate, the culture. And that kind of stopped when I was an early teenager. And when that kind of happened, it was kind of random. Like it was more like the elders that were in charge had something going on, and I just kind of stopped going. I started doing tradition or Tahitian, and I was doing hula also, which is a type of Polynesian dancing. So that's something that kind of took place because I feel since I was, a traditional dancer, like traditional cultural dancer. Like I wasn't in hip hop. Like I didn't. I love doing, random things like that, like classes, but I really liked how Tahitian and hula were just like culturally traditional, very, playful, but they had like the ties like very adamant in the practice. And so I actually went to Tahiti to compete. What year was that? 2019, so right before the pandemic. It was December or November-ish of 2019. So that was exciting because that, going back to that topic where I said traveling and like learning, um, I was doing Tahitian since I want to say 12, 13, because that's when Boho Circle kind of stopped. So, you're kind of young, like, and especially since, it was different because Boho Circle was kind of like my family did it. Like everybody, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my parents, my brother. So it was kind of like, it didn't really feel like we were doing anything. Like it just felt like we were just kind of like having fun. Like it was hanging out. So when you're in a different setting in a different culture and it's like, oh shoot, like there's like this level of comfort you're not so much in, or not comfort like I'm not comfortable, but just like you're not as lax. Like I'm kind of like, oh, kind of keeping my attention aware. Um, you're a little bit more like poised, like you're trying to be more attentive, but in a way I was still so young, so it's like the appreciation wasn't fully there. And as I got older, and especially when I reached Tahiti to like understand where this came from, um like a whole different level of like humble like hit me, we had arrived before the competition, definitely, like to practice with an instructor, kind of like workshop. um but no matter how much I thought I had respected like Tahitian dancing, it really hit differently when I reached Tahiti, because my kumu, that's kind of like the like your guide or instructor with Tahitian dancing, she let us, connect with locals. She signed us up for that workshop because, we were practicing by ourselves, but it allowed us to see other Tahitian dancers that actually come from all over the world too, like Mexico, other parts of Asia. Like there's a lot of Japanese people that do Tahitian dancing. So it's so amazing to see like the way it can bring people in, and just that fact because, with my own Filipino culture, it was hard to, and I never saw myself traveling like that. So to see the way it can like, pull that energy to like go off into the world and like, meet other folks and have that passion, like that passion and love frequency really is like it can just go in so many directions, and it can be so impactful. So yeah, I've grown up dancing my whole life. I still love doing it, even if now my schedule is a little busy. Like I still try to dance.
That's good. I mean, we gotta keep that sacral energy going, right? We gotta
Mm-hmm.
balance that sacral chakra, and dancing and all of that is part of it. Um,
Yeah.
I think so. I've always been like super shy growing up, and I used to think it was just because I was a Libra or whatever, but like thinking back, I feel like I just really had anxiety. Like I used to not dance at family functions because I didn't want people to look at me and all of that. But like, that's crazy. Like everybody dances, everybody does these things. And so like I've been trying to embrace that more as I've in my adult years. And it really does make a difference. Like it helps boost my confidence. It puts me in a good mood. And I don't know why I was so like scared to do it, but it's great. Like it's motivating to see other people do it. So
I agree. I definitely had one of my preschool students when I worked at the daycare. I actually worked there when I lost it in the beginning. I guess when the vaccine laws were kind of lifting, she
yeah.
eventually hired me again. So I worked for another year, and so I had a preschool class that I was like their teacher, and we were I don't know I was having it was fun Friday, right? So I was like, let's dance, let's play freeze dance, and so one girl stopped and she said, she was crying. She was just like, I don't want to dance. And I said, why not? Do you want to pick a song maybe that you like? And she said, I dance weird. People are gonna laugh at me, and it just like broke my heart because I'm like, I don't know where you learned that from, but there is no right or wrong way to dance. It's just movement, And I love when I can see, right, like when you said like I can see people just having fun. It's like that. It's like contagious. Even
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing, it's like let me just move, and it takes away whatever you're thinking about and like a responsibility mindset, and you get to kind of like just release. Like it's another form of release when you're not uh, trying to focus so hard, whether it's like breath work and things that you eventually kind of have to like you put a lot of intention and focus into it first to allow it to come. But when you're dancing, you're just like it's just so explosive sometimes.
You just move. You're supposed to just feel it and move and like.
Right, right.
So have you always been like confident in with yourself and just like so what I love about you and what I get from your page is that you're very confident and you just do you regardless. Like I loved everything that you were speaking about on your stories during like quarantine and just really just standing in your own truth. So like have you always had the confidence to be like that or is that something you had to grow into?
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you. I feel like very validated because I don't like that's something I don't even really think about, I guess. Like and so when I hear those words, it really it like kind of shocks me. So first of all, thank you.
You're welcome.
Um I really don't know. I feel like sometimes I'll interpret the like kind of projection as like intensity just because growing up I had an intense mom, like let's just put it that way. Like I had an intense mom, and so my whole life I had this woman who was just confident in what she was saying, whether it was off the wall or not. She said what she said, and like that was my example. And so I kind of always just carried myself this way because it's like if you didn't kind of hold that same energy, she would like ride you off, like make you kind of like have to deal with it. So it's like to kind of balance it, you would have to either meet her or like ignore her. And so I've had to learn though, like as we grew up, like communicating, right, like what is like more effective. But I think over the years it took a lot of like actually running myself into walls, like how she can kind of do that in a way has taught me like how I can do that individually to myself. And I've ran into many situations that I would either have to question like why I was in it, right? Or like um why it was happening to me. And I think those moments where you overcome them, you kind of gain that confidence naturally. So I felt having like an outgoing personality kind of helped me just do things. But sometimes it's like, dang, I'm not really thinking. I'm like I'm not really having intention. I'm just doing kind of like impulsively, or I'm
Mm.
doing it because it's like, oh, I feel like it. And so then it's like, oh, okay, boom, something happens, and you have to really like dive in, like, whoa, is this what I really wanted? Is this like the outcome, or like is this kind of like the response I want from people, or is this the type of connections that I want around me? And so in those moments when you either give up on yourself, which it'll happen like in cycles, but then it's like you get brought back into those again, where those cycles either replay or you kind of like, oh no, like I deserve better. Or I even if it's not as dramatic like that, it's like, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
So I want to make myself happy. And, you know, when you make yourself happy, you kind of like receive the confidence as like maybe like a reward in what I'm kind of interpreting right now as I'm like flowing through it. But I actually used to also be really shy. So before I kind of learned how to like pick up my own energy, I was just shy. I spent a lot of time with my dad in the beginning, actually, because my mom was working a lot more. And my dad was super more like, chill. Like, we just like, we never really said a lot, but it was a lot of like laughing and
Yeah.
like jokes. You know, nothing was like very, I don't even remember any like certain like specific things. Just it was a lot of fun. And then my mom, like, she was more of like the force, like the grounding force, like the all right, let's get to business.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it was like, yeah, like a lot of taking it, and then it was like, you know, your teenage years, you kind of you get a little more ballsy, right? So yeah, that those were probably the times that I started seeing myself in like a my own personal light. And just like times of adversity kind of becoming those times that actually not only like, you know, you want better for yourself, but they actually teach you things where like in that same retrospect, like the wisdom you gain. So not only like, oh, I'm making myself happy, but now I'm like through these experiences that are kind of tough ugly times, it's like you gain wisdom and knowledge that kind of feel your next direction, you know. And so it's like that look good feel good quote. It's like when you do good you really feel good. And I've had to do a lot of like shadow work with my own ego sometimes, because like there'd be times where I thought I was hot shit, and it's like, no, just because you learned something or just because you've overcome the first steps of whatever your phase was, there's so much more. And then when I kind of like also embraced how limitless and infinite knowledge can be in this life and even lifetimes, it's like, whoa, it's like I am really such a small speck. Like I do matter, but it's like there's such a small spectrum that I have like here. So I think just knowing that puts a lot of peace. And so there's like a lot of things that I feel like where my confidence come from, but I feel like it really is like the peace, the wisdom, and like, you know, actually seeing yourself get through stuff, because it's like, oh my gosh, like some things like could have easily put me in like an addiction or put me in like a dark road for like the rest of my life. Or, you know, even just self-deprecating can like make you stay somewhere like longer than you need to be. And so yeah, that's how I feel I take that. So thank you. I really appreciate that, because I've really never had to like dive into that. So this is really just like authentically straight out of my soul right now.
Okay, well, you're very welcome. I mean, it's energy that you exude. I need to pause you for one
Oh
second.
no, you're good. You're
Can you please turn the water off? Sorry. What I wanted to say, I want to come back to what I was going to say.
all good. I get it.
I have another thought I was going to say, come back to, and I'm sorry for jumping topics, but you mentioned how you love diversity, and I think that Las Vegas, if you like the Bay, I think that you would like Las Vegas, because that's one of the number one things that I love here. Not that I'm trying to get you to move, but I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I will definitely explore. Don't test me.
It's really diverse here, and the community for like just being yourself, number one, being an entrepreneur, and then being into like spirituality and different like cultures is like really huge, and that's one of the number one things I love about being here. Like Vegas is so much more than the Strip. The Strip is
Oh,
cool when people come into town, whatever, but like the people here, you never know who you're gonna meet, you never know who you're gonna run into and what knowledge you're gonna drop, and I just wanted to share that with you.
yeah, no, thank you. I feel it's sometimes also like, you know, the big it's like that reputation that Vegas has, because a lot of people only like you only see a majority of it being like the turn up spot, and it's like, like the strip, right? But I've understood everywhere there's always, those things, especially in like touristy areas, but there's always the other side where you probably don't even know about because there's so much attention on this type of like outlook it has. But yeah, I would love to visit sometime, especially if there's like, vendor events. I am down. I made it a goal to start vending across the country if that called to it. But I also had to like check myself, because I realized sometimes California can be like a different world compared to other places sometimes. So I'm like taking it slow. So that's definitely more close by. So I can definitely see that
No, I
happening.
think they would love your crystal jewelry
Yes.
services and everything out here. So if you ever want to do that, we can make that happen. Just, I feel like July and August don't, because it's hot. Nobody wants to be outside. So springtime or later in the fall, we can do.
I'm down.
And I did remember what I was going to say.
Please,
You
yes.
mentioned seeing yourself like get through different obstacles and like how you could have easily gotten stuck in an addiction or just some type of habit. And
Mhm.
I think that also is part of, I think it's nice and it's important to take a step back and realize the things that you have gotten through, because sometimes it's easy to forget. Like, we're on this journey, at least for myself, like I'm on this journey of always trying to go and do something more and try something different and experience all these things or to fix something. But I don't often take the time to celebrate like how far I've come or the decisions that I've made that were greater than what they could have been. And
Mhm.
I think we need to allow time for ourselves to remember those things so that we can ignite that fire inside of us again if we ever lose it, or remember our power and all that. So,
Mhm. That's very true. That is true. It's like how sometimes when you're kind of in that balance mindset, because there was a time where it was, oh, trauma is and like unlocking all those shadow, but then forgetting like, oh shoot, like there's blessings, but it's like, oh wait, I don't want to like spiritual bypass, like, so I think that is a really good reminder, because sometimes in your own like jurisdiction you kind of forget sometimes like where you're at, like am I actually in like a balanced mindset or homeostasis, but then it's flow. And I think when you can share with others, it makes it easier, because when it's just yourself, like sometimes it's harder, and sometimes it's like when you have that external reminder, it can just put you back on track, and it can validate the things that either need to be let go, or just brought up when time is due. But yeah, because it can be a whole circle, like it can be a whole lot of like almost like forgetting, and then like when you remember it's almost like overwhelming again, but when you kind of give it grace, it's easier to kind of move on. So
yeah. And like you said, you didn't recognize or you don't often think about the energy that you exude to people or how
yeah.
you come across. And like I don't often think that about myself either,
Hmm.
but I was reminded over the weekend that me being me is motivating to someone, and you were just reminded that you being yourself is motivating to me. So it's not just me, it's like everyone else. And I think that that's very powerful in itself, to just know that we don't have to be anything different. I feel like I'm just doing regular stuff. Like, what do you mean that's special?
Right.
You feel like you're doing regular stuff, but like
Right.
we are doing something special that's helping other people. So that in itself should be like a confidence booster too.
Yeah, no, and when that energy exchange is happening, it's really fueling, because it kind of goes back and forth where it's like, oh, I'm inspiring you, you're inspiring me. Let's go like do good, like something amazing that can like kind of just feed others and make them feel the same way. I think that's the driving force of a lot of things that I do, is
Mm.
like, and it's not necessarily to be a savior, but it's more just I felt these things make me feel good, so I mean I naturally want to offer that. And when you kind of see that ripple effect with the responses and reactions, you just it encourages you back to like keep doing it. And then how far it can reach is like sometimes it's almost unbelievable, right? Like so unbelievable. And it's like more humbling, but it's more exciting. And then you get so into the groove of what you're doing that you start really manifesting like community, right? Or manifesting these bigger moves that you only ever imagine like celebrities or these people doing. But in reality, it's like we are all the celebrities. Like we have all those power too. It's just, you know, have we tapped into it? And I think like with certain things that I've given grace to with like past, you know, situations or things that have taught me, it's allowed me to find that strength within myself because now, for example, like I've been asked to be involved in certain like organization groups. I've been asked in many spaces where before I used to have to ask the event like, can I please vent at this event? Like I used to have to email people, and now it's like there are hosts that will ask me like, do you think you could vent at our event? And it's like the way that those tables turn because of how much work you're putting into something that you believe in, and it's really like really just your belief that's holding it down so much because you can sell anything, right? You can sell that anything that you don't even like that could really profit. But when you really like put that interest of what like calls you, it can go so far and deep, and it can manifest so much, so much. So I see you too. Like I really feel, even though our energies are different, I feel like it's like even just talking with you now and the way you've supported me, like that's always spoken out to me really deeply, you know, because it's been genuine. And it's like, you know, sometimes that genuine energy, it can be so like rare that's
Yeah.
like when you actually interact with it again, it's like it's refreshing. And it's like when I see that authentic work going into the ways that you're spreading into community, it's like a little plant, you know, just like spreading a seed everywhere, making a whole meadow, you know what I'm saying?
Aw, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. But you're doing the same with all of your healing services and your jewelry. Like you can't go out in the bay and not see some earrings or some
For real.
goddess
I
up,
know.
jewelry. So that's really dope. And I need to get some out here in Vegas, so I'm gonna order some for you
Yeah,
because
no, I'd be happy to. And honestly, like there would be times where I think with the whole like the that like, you know, kind of going back to like what I said about like, oh my gosh, we are actually all celebrities. Like we just have to tap into it because there was, I guess, a client who she was either in San Francisco or Daly City or somewhere Daly City, somewhere that was like farther from where I was at. And she messaged me saying, you know, I was wearing your piece today at like Safeway. And then the cashier said, is that OG Original Goddess? And then she said, yes. And she's like, oh, I'm wearing another piece too. And to me, that was crazy because like, I was just like in awe, like how funny was like the two randomest people like meeting at a Safeway in a
yeah,
city that I'm not even from, you know, like and like just kind of basking in the way that they felt wearing my jewelry, and that's really all it's about. Like I've had to like learn to, you know, price my what I feel is right, but like sometimes I just like I really love that. Like I love when people just feel good. I love when they can like sense the work I put into it and like I don't know, just like cultivate that energy.
yeah. Well, your energy's great, and then people are checking for you to come vent for them anyway, so that says a lot.
Right.
People
Mm-hmm.
for you and want your stuff.
So blessed.
I appreciate you being here. Did you have anything else that you wanted to like share? Any advice maybe for some people who want to take a leap in life or entrepreneurial? And
Ooh, I feel like our what's it called conversation has been, you know, pretty organic in what needs to be said. I feel like for any people that want to dive into entrepreneurship or life, like it's I can say so much, but I really just want to say just fucking do it. Like really cancel out all the outside noise because in the end, like none of that matters. Um, and you can take that how literal you want because everything is an intuitive interpretation. So for me, losing my job was the answer because I didn't believe in myself enough. And I had to be forced to believe in myself. For some, they might need their ego checked and they might need to like really assess. But it's like, as long as you're fucking doing it,
yeah,
that's all that matters.
that is true. I want to add something too. I don't know if I've ever said this, but like just do what feels right for you because at the end of the day, this is your vision. No one else is going to understand it and like love it like you. And it was really hard for me in the beginning of my business. Um, I felt like I wasn't getting the support that I wanted from my family in regards to like sharing and like doing all these things on social media because I share and I do this and whatever, but you can't expect you out of other people. And also,
Mm-hmm.
your target market is bigger than them, right? So like love my family, I love my friends. It would be great if you enjoyed it like someone else who doesn't know me does, but like my end goal is to be international, not just know the
Yeah, hell yeah.
family, not just know my family or whatever. So none of that matters. Just keep doing you and pushing your stuff because that's your baby.
Yeah, and literally, like to kind of just share too, especially since we were talking about like, culture and all that. Like there was a time when my family was totally against everything I was doing because it was not, with what like Catholicism wanted. And there was a time where it was like getting very rough because it it was like I didn't have a job, I was scared to like not have a home, things like that. But it kind of our love as a family kind of like was able to bypass that, and that was just purely just to like share with people like how rough it can get when you're following your vision. Like stuff like that will happen, and like you can't fold. Like how you said, like sometimes also like our family and friends don't know how to support us because if they're not entrepreneurs themselves, they don't know what it's like. That's just what I've learned
Yeah.
because it's a lifestyle that you really have to like be able to understand it, no matter how deep you can explain it. So yeah, just like as long as you're doing it and you have to like what you're doing, like, and if you don't know your passion yet, like unplug everything else, like go out into nature and like find it, find God, find universe, and like connect with it, because that's the only way you can really understand what that vision will be, because if you don't have that inner voice and that inner guidance, anything can be told to you, you know
Yeah.
so that's all I really have to say.
Okay, well, thank you. Can you let everybody know like where to find you or how they can book service with you if they're in the Bay?
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram at OG original goddess. And yes, you have to have the dot. I predominantly use that. And if there's anything else that needs to be contacted, my email, it's the OG.originalgoddess at gmail.com. But my website is also tied to my Instagram. Same thing, www.originalgoddess.net. And you can book services through there. You can request a custom piece through there. But, feel free to check out anything that I post, whether it's on my page or my highlights, to really get into what I do, because sometimes I feel like words aren't enough. Like you have to experience it, and you have to also see if it's right for you. So,
Yes. Well, thank you. I love that. You dropped a lot of great knowledge today, and
thank
I don't
you.
know, I really love the conversation and getting to know you more. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it too. And there was a lot of love, a lot of power, I feel like, cultivated here.
Yes. So also listeners, thank you for being here. Peace out. We'll catch y'all next time.